The NFL schedule is out, and I cannot wait for a Week 2 Super Bowl rematch between the Chiefs and the Eagles. We'll talk about our favorite games on today's edition of Locked On NFL.
The new Locked On NFL. The madman Tyler Rowland is your double shot of NFL espresso, with the Locked On local experts on every major story. Get ready, Rowland is revving up. The new Locked On NFL starts now. Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Football fans, welcome in to the Locked On NFL podcast, bringing you a double dose of the NFL's biggest stories with help from our local experts that know your favorite teams like no one else. I am your host, the madman, Tyler Rowland, joined today by Locked On NFL expert, the Data Queen, Michelle Majuk. On today's episode, we're going to go over our favorite games from the NFL schedule release. We're going to talk about the Eagles' tough road to a title defense. We're going to talk about all of the international games and which ones are our favorites, but we'll start with some of the best prime time matchups. And boy, it's a lot of Kansas City and a lot of Philadelphia. But before we get into all of that, I do want to thank you for making Locked On NFL your first listen each and every day. Remember, Monday through Friday, NFL content all year round, always for free. Make sure that you get subscribed, stay subscribed. It's your team every day. But, Michelle, we get the release of the schedule. There are some primetime games out there. I obviously, number one, looked at the Chiefs against the Eagles in week 2. It's a 4 o'clock game, so a nice, not primetime, but a prime window, I will call it, for the Chiefs and the Eagles. Are you as excited about that matchup as I am?
I am in a way, but it feels like the Chiefs' regular season never matters. Like, it doesn't really matter what happens.
That's why it has to now. They have to turn that around. It can't be that anymore. They got to take it serious. They lost this time.
It's like at any time the Chiefs face the Bills in the regular season, it's fun, but the Bills will win in the regular season, and then they're going to lose to them in the postseason, right? But
Yeah.
no, it'll be interesting to see how angry the Chiefs get when they come out. Actually, Jalen Hurts has a chance to become, I think, he'll join Josh Allen to be the only quarterback to be able to beat Patrick Mahomes twice in Kansas City. So if he does beat him, that'd be something, because it doesn't obviously count the Super Bowl rematch. But he did beat him already in Kansas City in one regular season game. It'll be a good game. I think Jalen Hurts actually knows how to beat up on Spagnuolo's defense. He's like the one quarterback that's figured it out. So it'll be fun.
Yeah, I just want to see the trench matchup, because that's what decided the Super Bowl, is the Eagles just dominating, but they lose Sweat, they lose Milton Williams. Now Kansas City adds folks on the offensive line. They lose Joe Thuney. They make some different changes there. So very, very curious to see how that matchup goes, and it'll be cool to see it very early in the season, like just how much change has there been. Has Kansas City improved on the offensive line? Has Philadelphia gotten worse on the defensive line? Those are answers that we'll get early in the year, so I'm excited about that to kind of build forward through the season. I do got to talk about another game that really stands out to me, and it's a Christmas matchup between the Denver Broncos and the Kansas City Chiefs. And I have gone out on a limb here. I've gotten bold, and I think that Denver is going to find a way to win that division this year. They're going to be contending for sure. And week 17, second to last of the year, Christmas, I think that'll be a great game. And my guy, Cody Rark from Locked On Broncos, talked about the matchup.
The Denver Broncos will take on the Kansas City Chiefs on Christmas Day. This is Cody Rark, host of Locked On Broncos. And with the NFL schedule release being official, the Denver Broncos' biggest game of the season right now will be Week 17 on the road at Arrowhead Stadium. Bo Nix taking on Patrick Mahomes in what we hope will become a very fun rivalry inside the AFC West. But the stakes are massive. Week 17, AFC divisional matchup, AFC conference matchup, and I guarantee you there will be playoff stakes really up for grabs here for the Broncos, hopefully at this juncture of the season.
See, I think there will be heavy stakes in that game. So stakes, something interesting with the Broncos kind of being a new team on the scene. They had some down years. Now they're getting back to being competitive. I think it could be a nice changing of the guard. A good big-time game between two really good teams and a division rival on Christmas. The Broncos, a team that we haven't seen a ton of in recent years on primetime. I love that matchup.
The thing is, it's going to be a good matchup because the Chiefs are going to be fighting for the number 1 seed and the Broncos are going to be fighting for a wild card spot. They're not going to be fighting for the division. Get out of here. If anyone's going to be fighting for the division, I think it'd be the Chargers. But I think the Chargers and Broncos will be a tight race. And then, I mean, Geno Smith going to the Raiders, you never know if they'll be competing for a wild card spot too. This could just be a good division overall. Now, the Broncos did give the Chiefs trouble last year in Kansas City. They should have won the game. It was like that crazy end. The
field goal block.
That's just, the Chiefs just get so lucky. So I will not be surprised if the Broncos beat the Chiefs on Christmas Day because their defense, I mean, they only added to their defense too in the first round. Their defense is good. They seem to know how to control Patrick Mahomes a bit. I do think it could be a close game as long as Bo Nix doesn't fall, have a huge sophomore slump and fall on his face next year. But I still don't think they're ready to compete for the division.
All right. Well, hey, there will be intrigue. And when we get there, we will be able to talk about it here on the Locked On NFL podcast. So speaking of the Chargers and the Vikings play week 8 on Thursday Night Football. J.J. McCarthy against his old college coach. I found that one pretty interesting. Chiefs Cowboys on Thanksgiving. Thank gosh they gave the Cowboys a good opponent instead of like the Giants or something like that. Bears Vikings week 1 Monday Night Football. That one stood out to me. Chiefs Lions week 6 Sunday Night Football. Those are good games. Are there any of those matchups or any other primetime matchups that you've seen that you really like?
Listen, just you naming the Chiefs over and over and over, like they
Yeah,
really just want to give us so much Chiefs fatigue. However, I am pretty excited about the Chiefs Cowboys game. As long as we can get the Thanksgiving and Dak Prescott's healthy, and the Cowboys offense is clicking, I do think that could be a really fun game. We have, it's so interesting because the Vikings are going to be in a lot of primetime international games this year. We're going to be seeing a lot of J.J. McCarthy. And if he's not good, that could be some brutal games that we have to just keep watching them over and over and over. But like those Vikings, Lions, Bears games should be a lot of fun too.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I love the Cowboys matchups this year. I don't know what it is, but I'm higher on the Cowboys than people seem to be. I think they're going to be a competitive football team. I think the Cowboys are going to be a playoff team this year. That's one of my, early bold predictions, I guess. I don't know how bold it is. They went 7-10 last year, and their quarterback was hurt most of the year, and there was a ton, and they had a coach get fired and all this different stuff. I'm not very high on Brian Schottenheimer. Quite honestly, I'm a little bit worried about that situation, but with the talent the Cowboys have, if they can just play as good as they played last year, but stay healthier now with Pickens on board, I like the Cowboys this year. I think at minimum, the Cowboys are going to be an entertaining team, which is what the Dallas Cowboys should be above all other things, is at least be entertaining, don't be boring. And I think the Pickens move kind of helps them be not boring. Vikings-Lions is a good one too, like I said, but Bears-Vikings week 1 Monday Night Football. I'm just so interested to see what Ben Johnson is going to do for Caleb Williams. We get J.J. McCarthy out of the gate if he stays healthy. You know what I mean? Like that there's so much intrigue in that AFC North matchup. There are 8 primetime games for the Washington Commanders too. I mean, we're not going the individual games, but that's a big bet on the watch. So the Eagles, the Chiefs, the Commanders, they seem to really get a ton of opportunities here.
Yeah, we got the Eagles and Commanders in a primetime game on a Saturday night, possibly.
Yeah.
And they're going to be really, really interesting too, because the Commanders, it's like, was it just a one-hit wonder type thing where everything like perfect?
We've seen it before. Look at the Texans before. Now they won a playoff game this year, so does that count? But we see these big one-hit come out rookie and then take a step back. The sophomore slump is real.
It really, really can be. That's why I'm a little bit nervous about the Broncos. But I do trust Jaden Daniels more than I trust Bo Nix. And I am really, really excited to see what the Commanders can do this year. I don't love their mood for trading for Deebo Samuel. I don't think Deebo has anything left in the tank. But they were good at a great offense without him last year. They've worked on fixing their defense a little bit here. So I'm excited to see what they can do.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. But great primetime games, great holiday games. Now we got to talk about some of these international games because there is a pretty good slate to look forward to. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. The NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live. With player props, performance trends, same-game parlays, fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. I'm rooting for the New York Knicks at this point. I'm going to be betting their money lines. I'm going to be betting them with the spread throughout the process, hoping for a Knicks title at this point. And you can too. If you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Again, place your first $5 bet, and if it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, Michelle, let's continue today's edition of the Locked On NFL podcast. We are breaking down the NFL schedule release. We talked about our favorite primetime games, some of the best primetime games that stand out to us. Now do want to get into some of these international matchups. Before we do, want to thank you again for making Locked On NFL your first listen. Make sure that you get subscribed, stay subscribed. It's your team every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. But international game, we got the Vikings and the Steelers in week 4 in Dublin, and then the Vikings and the Browns week 5 in London. We get the Broncos and the Jets week 6 in London. We get the Rams and the Jaguars week 7 in London. Then we get the Falcons and the Colts week 10 in Germany. And then a really interesting one, we get week 11 in Spain between the Commanders and the Dolphins. Michelle, is there any one of those games that stand out to you as, oh, that is clearly the best game?
Well, I'm going to pick the Steelers and the Vikings, and that's me being a homer.
That's my...
And now,
yeah.
A big part of it will be, is Aaron Rodgers there or not? Because if it's like Mason
Yes.
Rudolph against J.J. McCarthy, we can't really pick that. I'm really interesting, though, to see how the Vikings perform playing back-to-back games, one in Ireland to England, right? That's never happened before. We've never had an NFL team play 2 international games in 2 different countries in a single season. We had the Jaguars play back-to-back in London each of the last 2 years. So this will be the first time this ever happens. It's also the first ever NFL game in Ireland. And I just think that could be a lot of fun. Now, I'm excited to see who the Chargers play in week 1 in Brazil, because that's a Friday night game. We don't have their opponent yet. But I do think a lot of these games are very interesting. The Jaguars versus the Rams could honestly be the most interesting, with Stafford versus Trevor Lawrence. If Trevor Lawrence can just take a step forward with Liam Cohen, that could be a really, really fun offensive game.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. It's funny that you mentioned that, because my game that I was going to mention is that Jaguars-Rams matchup. But I do want to start with that Steelers-Vikings matchup. There's so much intrigue here. Again, Aaron Rodgers, the connection to the Minnesota Vikings throughout this offseason that you've talked about. You have DK Metcalf and Justin Jefferson, 2 of the better wide receivers in the NFL, facing off, obviously, the J.J. McCarthy thing. But I'm going to be honest. I have Irish roots. I'm Irish and Scottish in nature. So these are my people. All right. And I'm just excited to see the environment. I'm always, as someone who hasn't gotten to travel a lot in their lives, one of my main places I want to go is to Ireland, see my homeland. You know what I mean? But like seeing the pageantry there and how they operate, since we've never got to see that before, that's the coolest thing about the international series to me. Again, I don't know all of your travels, Michelle. I did not get to travel a lot throughout my life so far, and especially internationally. Like, I've only been to Mexico outside of the United States, you know? So getting to see the UK, getting to see Germany, getting to see Dublin, getting to see Spain through the NFL lens, which I've looked at most things throughout my life that the NFL has consumed most of my life, football in general. It's just cool to get to experience those places in some way, even if it's not like you're tangibly there. And hopefully eventually I'll get to, this is going off the rails a bit, but I do love the international series for that reason. But that Jags-Rams game, I think the Jags are going to be majorly improved. This is one of those teams that I think is going to win their division this year and come from the depths to get it done. I like Jacksonville. I think they're going to be a fun team to watch. I think they're going to be interesting. And you have all of the ties between Liam Cohen, who is a Sean McVay acolyte, and James Gladstone, the new GM of the Jags, who came over from Los Angeles. The Rams being a good team, my opinion that the Jaguars are going to be a very good and competitive team, and then just the connective tissue between those two sides makes a very interesting matchup, in my opinion.
It really does. I mean, I'm all about offense, right? Like, I love fantasy football. I'm all about offense. I think this Rams offense has the ability to be excellent this year as long as Stafford stays healthy with Devonta Adams there now and Puka Nacua. And I love Kyron Williams as a running back. Like, I do think their offense can be electric. So as long as the Jaguars can just hold up their end, that will be a very, very fun game. I do want to talk about the Germany game real quick here.
Yes.
This is going to be the 5th regular season NFL game in Germany, first in Berlin. But what's really funny is that out of 5 games, Germany may have to watch Daniel Jones in 2 of the 5, because Daniel Jones can become the first quarterback to start multiple games in Germany. His last NFL start was actually in Germany. That game that they lost was his last game to start in the NFL. So if he wins the Colts job, he will be the first quarterback to start multiple games in Germany. I just think that's hilarious, and that's unfortunate for Germany.
Yeah, that is unfortunate for Germany. That's tough for their fan base, but I got to be honest with you. I think that's exactly what they're going to get. I do think Daniel Jones starts more games this year than Anthony Richardson, but that game will be interesting nonetheless, because I think the Falcons are in a must-win situation this year, and my guy, Aaron Freeman from Locked On Falcons, talked about that game.
It's official. The Falcons are heading to Berlin in 2025. I'm Aaron Freeman with Locked On Falcons. Atlanta Falcons heading to Berlin to take on the Indianapolis Colts on November 9th this year in Week 10. And despite this game being played overseas, it will be officially marked down as a Colts home game. And the Falcons have a connection to Germany, as they were granted marketing rights to that country back in 2023 as part of the NFL's Global Markets Program. And this will mark their first game played in Germany after the team has played several international games overseas, most recently both in 2021 and 2023 in London. So we will see you in Germany, bis dann, as they say.
Shout out my guy Aaron Freeman with the German being spoke on the show. We're multilingual, all right? I did want to mention the Chiefs are playing the Chargers Week 1 on Friday on YouTube. I think it is, the Brazil game. So that'll be very interesting to see that divisional matchup. But the last game that I wanted to mention here is the game in Spain. And it's the Commanders versus the Dolphins. And just because the Commanders are like the new Dolphins, in my opinion. Not exactly the same, but they have the new flashy offense, and they're like the new shiny toy that everybody likes. The Dolphins were that a couple of years ago. They're not anymore, and I think we are at the end of this cycle of the Dolphins. I think Mike McDaniel gets fired after the season. But seeing them take on the Commanders is very interesting because it's late in the season. It's week 11. I think this could be the moment where you talked about the last game Daniel Jones started was in Brazil. I think that we could see Mike McDaniel get fired after this game if the Dolphins are like 2-9 or 3-8 or something like that. And the Dolphins could just choose to go ahead and move on. They get back to the States. They get to look at somebody else interim for the back stretch of the season. They'll probably have a bye after that too, the international game. So it makes sense to cut your coach off there at the bye week at week 12, and then you got 13 to week 18 to get a look at somebody else on an interim basis. So that's a little prediction early on, and why I think that game will be so interesting, because it could be Mike McDaniel's last with the Dolphins.
It could be interesting for sure. And Tua is 0-2 in his international games in his career. Also, the Dolphins have the second most losses in international games all time at 5. So it will be interesting. They've struggled in the past internationally. Tua's struggled. But, I mean, it'll also be Jaden Daniels' first time playing internationally, so who knows how he performs.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting game nonetheless. Regardless of what the team's records are, it'll find a way to be interesting. But with that in mind, speaking of interesting, the Philadelphia Eagles have a very, very difficult schedule. All right, Michelle, let's cap off today's edition of Locked On NFL, breaking down the schedule release. We finally have full schedules in the NFL. We talked the primetime games we like. We talked the international games we like. And I just want to take a moment and focus on the Philadelphia Eagles and their situation. But before we do that, did want to mention quickly, Derrick Henry gets a big-time extension from the Baltimore Ravens, 2 years, $30 million. We'll get the exact figures and all of that as things come out completely. But at the end of the day, the Ravens are in a perfect situation, in my opinion, to extend a guy like Derrick Henry. He fits perfectly with that team because they're a good team already. I don't think Henry would be as effective if he had to play for a bad team like the Titans still. So I think this is good for Derrick Henry's career. This is good for the Ravens. It's good for the NFL because him and Lamar are a great pairing and a very interesting and exciting pairing. So everything about this is good to me. It's just funny to me that the Ravens extended Lamar during the draft and then they extend Derrick Henry like 8 hours before the NFL schedule drops. Why do they do this?
They like to cause chaos, apparently. No, I think Derrick Henry deserves it. I'm fine with it. Good for him. I don't know if he'll play out the contract like value-wise
Right.
in terms of him, playing up to it with his age that he's going to be too. But who cares at this point, right? Like he's going to give you production this year. That's all that matters. Just pay the guy. Yeah,
you're not going to get a bad deal signing Derrick Henry. Like he's just going to produce enough to where even if you didn't get full value, it's going to be like you got 92 cents on the dollar or something. Like you're going to be all right. But speaking with the Eagles, we know about the week 1 matchup between them and the Dallas Cowboys is going to be very, very interesting watch to open the season. And my guy Legacy Louie from Locked On Eagles talked about it as well.
All right, so we now know the Philadelphia Eagles are taking on the Dallas Cowboys in the NFL season opener, that Thursday opener that's hosted by the Super Bowl champions. Overall, I think it was kind of a lazy decision to make it Eagles-Cowboys. Not surprising, but I feel like it should have been Eagles-Rams, a rematch of that all-time playoff classic in the divisional round. I thought the NFL would definitely make it Eagles-Lions, but I will say one awesome part about this, making the Dallas Cowboys watch the Eagles raise another Super Bowl banner, that's pretty cool. So I don't love that it's Eagles-Cowboys. I would have chose Rams, Lions, or even a rematch with the Commanders, one of the rematches of the playoff run of last year. But I think that part is awesome. Making the Cowboys watch the Eagles raise another banner is pretty sweet content.
I love the pettiness from my guy Louie there. I got to be honest with you. I said it when we got the news. I love the matchup between the Cowboys and Eagles week 1. I think the Cowboys are very interesting this year. Like I said earlier, I think they're going to be an improved team. And I think that, I saw Louie's take that the NFL is overestimating the Cowboys draw. I'm sorry. I think that's an underestimation of the Cowboys. The Cowboys still sell. The Yankees still sell. Coke still sells. PlayStation still sells, Apple still sells. Give me the Cowboys week 1. I'm not mad about it. But look at the other opponents that they have on their schedule. At Green Bay, at Buffalo, at the Chargers, at Tampa Bay, home for Denver, home for Detroit, home for the Rams. We know that they play the Chiefs as well. They obviously have to play the Commanders. They have a ton of very difficult games.
Oh, yeah. They have to face they have 11 games versus 2024 playoff teams. This year, it's time.
There's only 14 playoff teams. That's and they're one of them. So that's insane. 11 out of 13.
Yeah, and they'll face all 4 of their playoff opponents from last year. They'll face the Packers, the Rams, the Commanders, and the Chiefs. They have to face 7 of the top 10 scoring offenses from last year. They have to face 4 of the top 5 scoring offenses from last year. And then also they face 6 of the top 7 scoring defenses from last year. So hard on both sides that they got here. Very, very tough schedule. And typically there can be that Super Bowl hangover, right? So, yeah, I'm not going to be surprised if the Cowboys come out and win week 1, and then really put a hold on this division, or the Commanders, either of the 2 teams, they could take over this division next year.
Yeah, and one other thing that we have to factor in is the offensive coordinator change with Kellen Moore, who, if Kellen Moore is truly an NFL head coach, then that means that they were getting NFL head coach quality offensive coordinator play. Are they going to get NFL head coach quality offensive coordinator performance this year? The odds of that, we just saw when they lost their coordinators after their Super Bowl appearance, that first year it was tough for Nick Sirianni to replace it. He's only got to do one instead of both this time. But again, like you said, you combine that with a little bit of a Super Bowl hangover. It's hard to be as motivated after you have that kind of success. The schedule being what it is that we just talked about, plus that factor, I think the Eagles over-under on FanDuel, I believe, is 11.5. right now. I'm going to take the under and say that the Eagles win 11 games this year. I still think they win the division, but I don't think that they get the 14 wins like they got last year.
If they get 12 wins with this schedule, like that's going to be highly, highly impressive. There is a solid chance that they can start. I mean, they have a really hard start of their schedule. So if they, I mean, you already brought up the Cowboys and the Chiefs, and then, you know, the rest of the schedule there. It's a hard one for them. It'll be interesting. And I would go with the under 2 because I think 11 is very fair to say what they can win next year.
Yeah, and you look at all the primetime games that they'll have to play in the 4 o'clock window games, and it just, you wonder about the toll that takes, the schedule, the wasted rest and the change in rest, and every week you're on a different schedule than what it was before. I think that will have a little bit of a factor as well. But the NFL schedule is out. We're going to have more schedule reaction on the show on tomorrow's show with the mastermind, Ross Jackson, going to be going over more of our favorite games and our big matchups that we're watching for. But that is going to do it for us today. I am your host, the Madman, Tyler Rowland, for my co-host, the Data Queen, Michelle Majuk. As I tell you every episode, and we tell you every episode, thanks for tuning in. Stay safe out there.
Bye, y'all.